my favorite person to travel with anywhere is my wife, Shauna. And I would say the question I am most asked, perhaps after maybe how do I get your job, is does your wife get to travel with you? And I'm very happy to say that on occasion, yes. Every year we kind of look at my schedule and we say, is there anywhere that it would work out for her to kind of come along? What trip would make sense? And so this year, the last part of my travels here was a trip to Norway in August, end of August, early September. And we kind of looked at my schedule and I saw that in my schedule. And I said, this would be perfect. Shauna would love it. We'd have a great time there. And, you know, as much as I love traveling by myself, the best experiences are even better when shared. And that was surely the case, and really a rewarding thing to have Shauna on the trip with me. It was especially special for us to go to Norway because we went to Norway on our honeymoon back in 2004. So this is us as newlyweds out on the Sonia Fjord. And it was really fun to be back and kind of relive some of those memories. This was me on our honeymoon, and we found the same basically pose that we could recreate on this trip 19 years later. It was, now selfishly, it was also really nice having Shauna along because she's an outstanding driver. And this was a road trip. This was a Norwegian road trip. We put on about 1,000 miles driving all over Norway. We started in Ålesund and went all the way down to Kristiansand, down at the southern tip of Norway. And Shauna drove almost every single one of those miles. She's an outstanding driver. And it was also great because I could sit on my laptop and I was writing up like scenic drives for the guidebook. And boy, there's no more perfect situation if you're writing about a scenic drive than to be doing the scenic drive with someone else driving while you're taking your notes. But it was just a fun trip to have somebody on board with. And driving in Norway is not an easy task. Sean is an excellent driver, fortunately, but there's lots of these super twisty, I call them spilled spaghetti roads. This is Shauna standing at the top of the Trollstigen, which is a famously twisty road. And behind her, you can see the road that she just drove up. So that was really a delight. And, you know, I just love a good road trip. I did two this year. I did a great road trip in Iceland with Simon and Carl, and I did this great road trip in Norway with Shauna. And in Norway, I particularly like a dashboard picnic. We took to calling this our dashboard smorgasbord. And so we would basically go to a grocery store and stock up on all sorts of Norwegian goodies, Vasa crackers and salami and cheeses and the cinnamon roll and lefse. And we'd have a really fun little lunch kind of as we were waiting in line for the ferry or as we were sitting at a beautiful viewpoint. So that was kind of a fun component of this particular trip. As I mentioned, we started up way in the north part of Norway in the beautiful, beautiful city of Ålesund. This is, some say, the prettiest city in Norway, partly because it was destroyed by a terrible fire in the early 20th century and was all rebuilt within the course of a few years in the Art Nouveau style. So it's very colorful and cohesive. From there, we got in our car and drove all the way through Norway. We stopped off at several different fjords, went on lots of boat trips and ferries, all in the interest of updating our guidebook, of course. Stayed in some beautiful fjordside grand hotels. And I have an affinity for stave churches. So I also kind of was on a mission this trip to see how many stave churches I'd be able to lay eyes on. I think we made it to 6 or maybe 7. And I think I want to say there's 23 that still stand. These are these beautiful medieval wooden churches that still stand around Norway. So we made it to quite a few of those and had a great time with that. After driving through kind of the Fjordland, we went down a chapter of our guidebook that hasn't gotten a lot of attention recently because it's very remote. It's called the Setesdal Valley. And it's this beautiful, beautiful, very remote part of Norway that is far less famous than some of the other places we went, but very beautiful, incredible waterfalls, and just lots and lots of these beautiful wood sheds with not just with sod on the roof, but often with literal trees growing out of the roof. It was really evocative. And the fun thing about traveling in Norway, I got to say, I've always loved Norway. Every time I go back, I just remember it's at the very top of my list of favorite places in Europe. You know, Slovenia, if you know me at all, Slovenia is #1. Gosh, Norway's got to be in the top 3 or 4 at least. And one of the things I love about it is it's just beautiful. Some of our most favorite scenery, some of the scenery that just blew us away, wasn't even the stuff we were going to see. It was the stuff between the things we were going to see. This was just driving along a fjord on our way from this great destination to this great destination, and suddenly this incredible view unfolded before us. And that's what driving in Norway is like.